Kutay nan nan hasan shukushin kaya hunja
ayo fatange kayi yo fatange ka
Kansan
aya
sisi
hatu
kichungi
to
ejong dan hachin asi dankati
kinchi shu ishi ni dan chi yendo lekin chi kanyan chi lekin chi unin chi lekin chi kwe rachi
Both trade does the inviting.
Kusukane yaslenget ane akad
Asnya ti dadu didini ke saya ti adat hijade nina udli hasne.
Kusukane yaslenget ane akad kaskenje nichtan kaskenje
In March 2013, the We Are Our Language conference took place in Whitehorse, Yukon to discuss issues on Indigenous languages. There are 14 First Nations and 8 languages native to the Yukon Territory. All are endangered to various degrees. People came from parts of Nunavut, Northwest Territories, British Columbia, and all over Yukon to attend the language conference. The town of Whitehorse is now the home to approximately 25,000 people, all from various cultures and backgrounds. However, it is located upon the traditional territory of the Kwalin and the Ta'an First Nation peoples. The conference took place at the Kwalin Cultural Center in downtown Whitehorse. The Council of Yukon First Nations Indigenous Language Revitalization Program was proud to host the event.
I'm honored to be here today, not only to welcome you to the Kwalin First Nation Traditional Territory, but also to the We Are Our Language Conference. As the First Nations people of this country, our languages must be revitalized, protected, and promoted as a fundamental element of Canada's heritage.
The Yukon First Nations Language Revitalization Program was initiated in November 2009 and extends to March 2014, with a mandate from the Yukon First Nation leadership to work with the communities and their based programming priorities that builds capacity and increases speaker fluency levels.
Yukon Education is working towards meeting the unique educational priorities identified by Yukon First Nations through our partnership with the individual First Nations and, of course, working with CYFN. This demonstrates that, of course, First Nations input is valued and it's crucial to our success moving forward.
We need our people, our language speakers, educators, and governments to commit to the protection, promotion, and preservation of Yukon First Nation languages as a whole. Speaking one's own language provides a sense of identity, promotes self-esteem, and supports the collective nature of First Nations communities.
Hundiang si Jong dan nanka dan it's in linka dan sik areas eti hon kot until tits and jazz and kot angatis and the yots only who did city. Ejak any that city since that fogged odent is a hodaiti a jan duniag I energy see it to thong dan yet a cas city sing. A jung you see in Danflit Edo thatching down, Jikajis and yet dowdy, a Jacleti ho a show, Dunia, dan cheer dan near, Dunia, you don't so, no danker, Jacleti, and masses in there.
Colonel Chish, a honk a has, Stakati one, Hayok Hardinari. Kekach two, Yake, Sahe, Yakuke Hadu Adi. Ye Yucatan Kdad. Khatin Nakhtu Yak He Yucatan Kdad. Lakhe Kuge Adai Padas Atke. Chohatu Eti Hayukatan Getis put cake Akhi.
Long time ago, people, when their kids are small, they pack them on their back. And they learn that way too. Everything the mother does, they learn too. They learn how to do stuff because they're watching everything, whatever you do.
Native language was our first language. We spoke that since we grew up with it.
I couldn't even speak a word of English. And when I went to Carcross, when I was 11 years old, I thank the Lord for, that I went 11 years old because my grandma taught me lots of native things. And then when I went to Carcross, I was so happy to see my sister. When I went with plane from Selkirk to Whitehorse, and that's how much I don't know anything. When we started land there, in the airport, and I see all those green, red light, all this, I thought, how in the world did they grow out of there? I never saw that in my lifetime. And then next morning, they put me on a train to Carcross. And then my sister was standing when the train stopped. I was so happy when I saw her. I couldn't wait to get out of there. When I got out and I just ran to her, I started talking to her right away. And she said, "Can I take my sister to washroom?" she said. And that's where she told me everything. She told me, if you speak your language, she said, you're going to get strapping. All those, they really were mean to us like that because we couldn't help it. We don't understand them. But I thank God that I still could understand the language when I came back from school when I was 16 years old.
I still speak the same when I come back. But then, there was 5 of us speak the language. We all hang around together. Then when we go to town, walk way back, we talk our language together. Then we don't dare anybody to hear us, because if they hear us speak a language, for sure as heck we're going to get strapped.
The first picture is a picture of All Saints School in Aklavik. I was 8 years old when I went to that school. 45 minutes flight between Fort McPherson and Aklavik. To me, it was on the other side of the world. I came from a culture with a first language, living off the land, surrounded by my parents, my grandparents, my aunts and my uncles who spoke the language and who lived the culture. The day before I went into that school, I was 100% healthy, physically, mentally, spiritually. I was at one with the land. And I was taken away to this building. I call it a box. I was put into that box. I was told to learn English. I was told to eat food that I was not accustomed to. I was given clothes that had a foreign smell, and I was being taught by a different set of rules. I grew up in that box for 12 years of my life. 12 long years, and I was assimilated. My whole thinking changed, and I lost part of my language. And there they were, my beloved parents. And every time I talk about them, I have tears in my eyes. And this is the reason why I dress like I did today. In memory of my mother, who I grew to be ashamed of in a residential school. And right now I apologize to all you mothers, you fathers, the grandparents, for having been made to feel ashamed of you. I already apologized to my mom and dad, but I want to apologize to you today because you were part of that shame that I had at one time.
Government people right now, they go so far with everything. They don't really fully support you. They just go so far. They give you a little bit money. He said, this is how you got to do it. They tell you how to do it. Government, after they take all our language away and then apologizing to us, he should have given us money forever to teach our language again before they apologize to us. I don't accept the apology after what they done to us. We really need to work hard with kids now to get their language back. And I'm just hoping that one day we could have half a day for English and half a day for Native. So at least we can teach them something, half a day, instead of 20 minutes.
Why is it that 45 years have gone by with the language in all the schools, and yet I can talk to one of my own people, they don't know what I'm talking about. Can't carry a conversation with them. There's something wrong. Dig down, find out what it is. And you know, I think it is because that the school people tell us how to do it. That's what it is. We don't do it ourselves. And this is what we got to do. We got to stand up and we got to say, this is the way we want it, and that. Say it.
It's been talked about by different people, and especially by the Language Revitalization Working Group, that in our programs we are not producing high fluent speakers. With our programs, for years and years, I was stuck knowing the weather. It's sunny outside, it's cloudy outside. My name is Skyda Oo. I see a dog, I see a duck. And I was really stuck knowing the date, and no matter what course we went to and whatnot, I stayed down in that level 1, level 2. What we want to do is get way up there so that we can tell stories in our language. So that this presentation I'm giving to you today, I could do it in Tlingit or Kaska. So how do we build our programs so that we can get to that point?
I have to go back to a conference that I attended back in Yellowknife, back in the 80s, I believe it was. And there was a lady from Hawaii there, and she said there were only 5 speakers left in Hawaii. And those 5 people got together and they started going into the schools. I see them just barging into the school and telling the school system that we're here, our language is getting lost. We'd like to be in the school system and start teaching our children. About 12 years later, they had a whole class of grade 12 graduates that were speaking their language, that had their traditional dress when they graduated. So my answer to that would probably be, for those of you that are interested in revitalizing your language, you need to work very closely together.
We're really striving for immersion methods of learning the language, which means immersing yourself not only in the language but also the culture too. And that's the model that we need to start using. The immersion philosophy that the French use. They establish jurisdiction over schools, over education, and say, this is what we want to teach our kids.
Like I said, the French over in the Northwest Territories are very strong.
They support their language. They speak their language. They're fluent in their language. They even have a French school in Yellowknife, and they teach from kindergarten to grade 12. Do we have any in our Aboriginal languages? No, not yet. But we are going to start after this meeting, right? My personal feeling is I'm not getting any younger, but I want to start my own school. All Gujin teachers. I want elders to be in that school with us. And I want us, for myself, I'm now teaching my grandchildren the language.
It was really funny because I thought I was going to change the whole program. There was another lady working with me at the time, very, very loving, compassionate woman. And I told her what I was going to do, and she said, oh, okay. And I was going to try be immersion, which was hilarious because I wasn't fluent at all. But I thought I'd use everything I knew and just speak that. 2 weeks' time, I was spent. I had nothing else to teach them. And I went up to Vera and I said, so how do these binders work here? And she very kindly showed me how she taught. And I went under her wing and I learned the binder method, going through vocabulary with pictures. But I didn't forget my idea of immersion, and slowly over the years I try to bring that in. The language for me at this school, it can't end at me. The kids can't think that I am the holder of this language. And one thing I realize is I can't do it on my own. This is what me and Grandpa just made. Well, he did most of it. I just kind of, actually he did most of it. I just kind of helped. Njal. Njal. The language holders always have to be our elders. And I've built into the schedule time every week, every Thursday morning, to work with elders. And my mentor is Patty Jim.
Been working with him about 8 years and trying to correct language. That's what I'm doing. Every Thursday I'll go see him. We lost about 95% of our language now at all. I don't know how we're going to do it. My way, that's why me and him we're trying hard to get our language back. Yeah.
So all the materials I use come from him. It's not from me.
I get Madago Junzika.
I get
Madago.
Madago.
Junzika.
Jutaka.
I get this Nitsari Kogo Tasa Kajo. Nitsari Koge.
Nitsari Koge.
Tasaka.
Tasaka. Ju. I practice that one.
Let's get very close boom.
Turkey out.
Turkey out, yeah. So to see those young girls at hospital. Turkey out.
Turkey out.
Cái chung nó lưu sẽ xí nào tôi định tôi tân về cả nó tôi hôn ở dân hùng tôi sân chung trong cái số thần thì nào tôi rất lo đấy chung nếu chỉ đến cái tôi dân cả số siêu về sự chính trọng về tình trạng tôi rất lo đấy.
Theo.
Anh cái theo. Cái yên chặt thì chúng ta sẽ lùa họ niệm mật Có tay đây, tôi con dê nó đó nè.
Ya kodira. Ya kodira yo ajukushen ge na ajukushen ke kodira dan ge ga kodira ajunya le mo kodira
Klija. 쳐다보자.
Oh, listen to Grandpa.
정하자. 아가정. Sure. Okay. Who? What kind of day this? Good.
Sure. It's not where we want to be, but it's definitely a lot closer than where we were 10, 20 years ago. Where we want to be is we want our children to be fluent. We want them to be immersed in the language. I can't do that, nor do I have the skills on my own to do that. I can't do that in a half an hour block with 3 times a week with kids. But that 3 times a week was fought for. So now it's up to us. We got to fight for the next part. You know, the generation before, they fought to get us here. Are we just going to sit here?
Why? In Japan, quist. Dan ambalski kan schoig. In Jats mamayas nist mala. Kan limt olhuitit khapala. Agait kalmilu. Olis kaltmius. Kihi goods mamayam. Kiapanaik alsitmala.
This is our 3rd try at a language nest, actually. So what is a language nest? They use that term from the Maori, the Hawaiians, to describe their programs for children, early learning programs for children between the ages of 1 and 4 usually. And they're run entirely in your indigenous language. And they've kind of taken the model of a grandma or grandpa house. So it's trying to get back to just sharing the language with your grandchildren and with the children. I've been doing my research, my doctoral research on language nests, and it has been said many times that this is the most effective way to produce fluent speakers, is to set up situations where the little ones can learn from the elders.
And when I first started, I didn't have books. I didn't know how I was going to start. So I did everything hands-on. I did things that you do in a home, what you do in your daily life. I had no direction. I just did it my Indian way. Like my everyday life, that's what I taught them. And that's how they learned.
So as Pauline shared, is that we didn't have a big planning session before we started. We just started. We didn't have a space. We didn't have any money. We didn't have a plan. We didn't have any of this. For our Language Nest program, we went to the elders and we asked them to form an advisory group. And we sat down and worked out how many elders are there, how many fluent elders are there left in this community. And we worked out there were roughly about 18, and one of them's now passed on. So what we were looking at is how can we regenerate the language?
We go out, go for nature walks, we go to the creek for fishing, we go on field trips, pick sage. Last fall they had tripe, guts. And that's what the kids ate. We ate that. And that's what we used to eat when I was growing up. They got to learn how to do that, wash it and clean it and cut it up. They were all for it. They were all there. We don't have English at all. No, that's how they learned. And anybody can do it. Nowadays they have training.
I don't think anybody wants to go to the training. I don't want nobody to tell me how to teach. I want to teach my own way, and that's what I've been doing. I just do it my Indian way. I'm a grandmother. That's all you do. Treat those kids like how you treat your grandchildren.
I have great respect for the grandma that was sitting up here who said, I teach it my way. 10 thumbs up to her, because that is the only way to teach it. When a baby starts walking, you take that baby by the hand and you lead it around. When he falls, you say, oops. You don't get after them. That's what we have to do with our younger generation. We all love them. We all want them to go ahead. We want to leave a good message behind with them. We do not have that, not that much longer maybe for some of us, but we're going to leave something behind.
My name is Lasai Wahlingit. My English name is Emma Shorty. I want to tell you about something that my grandmother said to me. My grandmother's name was Lanak. Her English name was Ollie. When I came back from residential school, I couldn't speak my language. And it wasn't because I forgot it. I think it is because I just hid it away. And my grandmother talked to me and she said, you know, from the time that your mother found out that she was going to have you, that she was pregnant, that's when your mother started talking to you. Because you're connected with your mother through the umbilical cord. She would put her hand on her belly and speak to you. And you could hear it because you're connected. And this is something that I always remember. You never really forget your language. You were born with it. You have to teach your children, your daughters, to do that. We have to go back to our way of learning how to speak our language. It's important to us. We can't lose it.
I have 2 young children, 2 boys. Kochkasani Yudusok, Shtadatin Yudusok. And I speak to them as much as I can because that's the way I was taught. Any little commands and things like that it's really important to just keep working in the language. And my youngest boy, he's only 4. He always reminds me, Mom, you know, we got to say our prayer in Tlingit. And so I say, okay, it's your turn now. So he will start off and he'll say, Ganashtish, Tikayonkow, Hahidadishi, Ishan, Awan. That's how he starts speaking. And it's so beautiful to hear that, you know, it's starting at home and it's up to us to pass on the language to our children. Because I don't want our language to die at my generation. I don't want to say that I was too busy to learn it and not trying to use it enough.
Diria, sera, diri tsitsa, kush tsitsa, superis. Yeah, kush tsitsa, kush tsitsa,
Kush.
not kush.
Sounds like hush.
Kush. Tsitsa.
How do you say this?
Sis.
How do you say the sun?
The sun? Saw.
How do you say rabbit?
Ka.
How do you say like a sun, like tuja? sun.
Sun is chua tuja.
That's true. How do you say a happy sun?
Chua ta miti etia.
How do you say a fish sword?
A fish sword. A fish sword?
Yeah. No, a fish sword.
You mean a swordfish?
Yeah, a swordfish.
Look at choke. This is on. Look at choke. Sword.
Can you say it too?
Kuka hura guzaga kuka gulinia guzaga tiza hilla sugustalai guzaga gugu tenezili tenezili guzaga kasku kawtaya ida hu tena tizaga dai lang kutialai linia.
The Council of Yukon First Nations Language Revitalization Program and the Kwalin First Nation partnered to fund the KDFN Language Nest operation during 2013.
And what's up there?
Clara.
Clara. And who's on the window? La, who's that? What are those? La la. What are they called? They- La la la. The Junge, Alexis. Tatsa. 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 Oh, paint. Isabella Ra. Oh, in la pencil. In la pencil. Gracie Ra. Now that. Gracie Ra. Now that. Yeah. Yeah. Laura. Yini. Alright. Show ding ding. Ding tay. Alright, ding. Chicas and Gradedler. Means the squirrel is making a chattering sound. The squirrel is making a chattering sound. Gradedler. There's a new game play.
Are you ready? Yeah. Yeah.
Put it there or put it there? Oh, somebody. Isabella. Unai. Yes, Unai. Now. Outside. Chase. Tatsa. Here we go. Tatsa.
Well, we were doing a theme in our classroom on ladybugs, and I was thinking I need something to help me remember the language. So we were talking, and he goes, "Well, singing for me, like singing language is easier." So I just thinking like ladybugs fly up high, and then ladybugs fly down low, and they land on flowers. And so I went to Lorraine, and I just said, "Well, I'd like to make a song, but short and sweet, because little kids, I mean, you can't sing a long time." So she translated it for me, and it just seemed to go good, like it flowed good. So yeah.
Language is important because it identifies who you are and where you come from.
Anyat kusani a gunas cheese hati adi ayagi
Noble people of this land, thank you for coming here today to witness this event. My name is Crystal Rogers. I am Tlupnachsha, a woman of the Raven Coho people from the Whale House in Dry Bay, Alaska. Our elders say that it is our responsibility to pass all of our traditions down to the next generations, and that's what we're doing here today. We have two teachers, Clarissa Rizal from Hoona, Alaska. She's Tukdane Tan, Raven, Black-Legged Kittiwake clan. And we have Ann Smith from Whitehorse of the Wolf clan of the Kwanlin First Nation. These are our two teachers, and we have 4 of their robes being danced out today.
It was created by my mom. When she explains of how she creates those things of great beauty, of great detail, you're creating a life form. When you dance it, you bring it to life. I've seen firsthand experience with kids when they connect up with their identity, when they connect up with their culture, with their language. They're strong, they're powerful, and there's no denying what they can do in this world. Like, bottom line, it's like opening up that box of wisdom that they talk about. Suhe de shukak tutana. And culture and language is one of those powerful areas where I can help our communities, thrive in this next century to come. All kinds of opportunities.
And that's the way I started, was the songs first. I look at that as probably like the most fun and easiest way to learn. And not only that, but you get language is like a song. You get a flow and a melody. You gotta have a love for the language like you do for music. So I love the language and I love everything it does. You have nothing but fun with the language because it's beautiful. It's like a song. So I think it's only fitting to have music run alongside with the language and the culture. It's just, it all ties in together. You can't have one without the other.
Play nice.
Shona Kunye, Shona Kunye, Shona Kunye.
We'll just play it back. Play nice.
Shona Kunye, Shona Kunye, Shona Kunye.
So with this, I can take this anywhere and I can practice, and yeah, so that's technology, which is good. I mean,
Kati isaan tiama kikkaat tuunah kdeenas työt kahtus tunga haitkaana taas. Chaagoya edakudishanne aan. Takosaat keens asiu juuskanogen. Idet koeis det kitus. Ate wait a tuda has come to nege. Yes, a gachshagoo.
Stephen Reed uses technology and humor to teach Southern Shoshone language. This one is called Dance Off.
Aju kudai kutsan nananichi. Aju you. Aju dan. Sa nini. Nik all. Nik all. Nijan huaga. Aju. Suaniga shadli. Suaniga shadlina. Hey ya ha hey. Hey ya ha hey. Hey, ya, hey. Suwaninga shadli. Suwaninga shadli, ya, hey, ya, hey. Aju done. Satni.
And he's been transferring that video to YouTube. And from there, anybody can access that as long as they have internet, which is, it's pretty common. You can go to Tim Hortons and be able to learn language. Why not? It's modern, it's using technology. A lot of people are using their iPhones, their iPads, their laptops, I mean, it's pretty accessible.
Northern Shoshone elder Jimmy Johnny also creates videos that promote his native language.
Sanaman kami anime the kumte hanages the kunkatine ye kanka chichung naramim. When I talk my Northern Shoshone language on my video, so people can hear it, and sometimes I say, if I make a mistake, correct me. Agencies are to see it in sometimes I don't pronounce my name, my language properly. So sometimes I don't know how to say swan. I go to my elders, I still don't know how. So it's hard. It's easy. You can see the city. That's a nice city of this. To educate to see who's you sing it to. Who's on here? Put some of this in the classroom, native language.
Mary Jane Moses produces videos that record and celebrate Gwich'in traditional knowledge and language.
I work within the community. We draw the people in, like for interviews, and we take them back to the land in the summertime for oral history projects. And we get our information from them, but we take them out to the land. We don't do it in town, because when we take them to the land, that's where their memory, we find that their memory comes alive, and they're so happy out there. And all the questions that we ask them, their mind is just clear.
Yeah, no, take what I go to go cause to Kurichi and connect in Cochiti, Chitien, it was just go I connect in the sweet Rovani trees at Chukrin.
When we first took our elders out to the land, they started telling us their stories, and they were crying, and I was behind the camera too, and I understand what they're saying, so I was crying behind that camera too. So it's it's really important information that they share, and they're telling us their stories of how they grew up and where they traveled on the land and who they traveled with, just knowing all about how life was back then, how hard it was. And it was hard, but at least they were happy. They said that they were happy, lived a happy life. They lived off the land, and they drove their dog teams. There was no such thing as snowmobiles or whatever. It was just them and the land and the animals, and that's what they preferred. And they came through that, and it passed all that knowledge on to their children and grandchildren, and it's up to us to pass it down. So yeah, we're really fortunate that we have all this knowledge. But we have, what we do with those that information, we make them into booklets for the school. We call them education kits. It includes place names and traditional knowledge, excerpts from that elders. We have a group called Heritage Committee that oversees all the planning of what Heritage does, and in that includes language and culture. So that's how we help community that way. And I make films that I try to educate the outside world about who we are as Gwich'in. Recently, I've incorporated my language. Van Tat Gwich'in Idali, Old Crow, Northern Yukon Gwich'at. I was afraid to at first, but I challenged myself and I was able to do it with the help of the language experts back home and with English subtitles on screen. But just doing that too was a challenge, but I overcame that challenge and I was able to do it. That is showing other people that they could do that too. Yeah, but not to give up, and like not to give up on our language and not to give up when it gets hard. You just need to, go around if you need to and just keep going. I'm very proud that I was able to do that, because it's just sharing of culture and sharing of our way of life for others to see, and we are unique in our own ways. Yeah. Yeah.
Although many see technology as a great way to revive language, there are those who strongly disagree.
It's very important. It's very important to have the language going. But you got to get the kids away from the TV and so-called iPods and things like that. And how can they learn when they're stuck to one thing? They don't even listen. You talk to them, they don't even listen to you. You don't know what you're saying. Like, this is very important. Very important what they see. They're not listening to you. I don't know how you could do it, but it's too late. You got to. It's good and it's bad. I say it's bad.
Do you think that maybe if they started like culture camps and like had language incorporated in being out in the bush, do you think that might be a good way to teach kids? Or?
That's a good way. That's a good way. In the school, sure, you teach them in the school. Oh, this is where you go out on the land and do this. But the thing is, get out. Bring them here and show them how to make fire and go out and set snares and then walk with snowshoes. I was thinking about it today. I brought my own snowshoe. I can see kids walking snowshoes out there that deep snow. Out on the land is very important. Very important. That's where they learn. That's where the main thing come out, And language too, like a lot of our words gone. I hear it, I see it. Take them out on the land and talk to them out on the land, this is where they'll fully get it. They'll understand everything. Traditional way of life. And it'll take a while, but they'll get it. They'll get it for sure. That's got to be done amongst all natives.
I can only see the way out from school is 50-50, that they have it for English and half a day for Native people. That's the only way I see the way out for our kids, because like Rachel said, school is just like another residential school again, because they take them away 9:30 till 3:30. What chance has a mother to teach anything, or grandma? They take us up there maybe just to tell a story one time and get out of there. But in education, I fight for elder to be there, like rotate, like what we did in daycare or whatever when we start off. I tell them that. I said we have to teach that way, rotate around with all the elders. And the men go up there to teach the boys, the women to teach the girls. And that way, like what we say, we want to take our kids out in the land, teach them on the land base. That's how I believe they're going to go ahead learning language. But the government don't seem to move on that. After they said, I told them, why do you call yourself partnership when you don't do what we tell you to do? But that's why I say we have half a day and half a day. We don't have to be behind four walls. We can teach them anywhere out there. And I believe kids gonna learn faster that way and more. And because you know yourself, when you get in the bush, you feel good, eh? Even as adults, it's easier, I think, to teach kids with, how to live in the bush, life like that. Language is important too, because language is our life, like Rachel said, it's our life. Without that, we have no identity. Government just gives you things, numbers, that's all. That's why it's really important we bring our language back.
I could never completely understand or know other experiences that residential school survivors went through, because that was for each of them, that was a personal experience. My grandpa, before he went to residential school, he was orphaned when he was like 3 or 4 years old. Both his parents passed away. And then he grew up being raised by various peoples, and then at 5 years old, he was taken to residential school. Before he went to residential school, he learned 4 or 5 different languages. He understood what the old people were talking about in 4 or 5 different languages. And that understanding, it was erased. And for a lot of First Nation people, they became embarrassed of their identity, and the language was one of those markers. But my grandpa, he was always connected to the land, because the land, it was safe. It was way safer than living in the community. Yeah, he just loved being on the land, his freedom. And maybe that was part of my grandpa's, healing growing up, or living his life. What was his connection to the land? It was always healing from.
When I went to residential school, that's where I almost lost it. I couldn't wait until I was 16-year-old to quit school. Never went back. It was a day. Tonight, I had to tell you, it's out there. Who you see, don't get you when you leave. Can see done so son don't get you when we are no did up, no doubt. You see, but you when you leave. That's how I learned. Best place, and I said, that's the best place to take out young kids is going on land and send out 2 or 3 native people that knows the language and just talk to them in their language and explain what they talk about and how to say it.
Didn't you pass? Didn't you pass it? And you done. Didn't the course? The course. Cause I did you pass that? Cool, non lara. It didn't you all say? Plant and the berry and plant out and all the sound. It's a plant and didn't die.
We want to be able to teach what we want to teach our kids as Yukon First Nation people with our umbrella fauna agreements. That's legislation that recognizes us and our rights, self-determination, all those things that fall within land claims, all those things that those elders said. We want our languages and our people to be strong. We want our culture to be strong. And these are the tools that we are passing forward to next generation. And we are that next generation. So no one's going to do it for us.
My elder, Auntie Jane, talked about unity and how the elders used to have unity so that they didn't even have to talk. She said that we just knew. We would come into a room like this and we would be talking with another group of people and we just knew what we had to say. That's how unified we were. I always think that Native people are at their smartest, at their most intelligence. They have their most intelligence when they think together, when they're unified and they could think collectively and they understand how to share. And you see it all the time with us. You see it all the time with Native people. And I just love that about our people. So Gunak Shish, thank you for sharing. And thank you for coming and just blessing us with what you have. Gunak Shish.
I have worked with our language since 1992 with a group of fluent speakers. Today we have access to one fluent speaker, and that would be Percy Henry.
My university is here, see? Big country, huh? That's my university. That's where I learned. Yeah, right up in Tloketlin. Tloketlin, that's right up. But I really born between the Ark River, the Trinchik, and Trinchik. I could get that lecture going. Maybe it's a good thing I didn't go to school. I never forget Trudeau when we did present together today for our children.
The Prime Minister's commitment to begin negotiating with the Indians is seen here as a landmark that could set the pattern for settlements with natives in other parts of Canada. The Indian Claims Commissioner, Dr. Lloyd Barber, describes the meeting as historic.
Trudeau, he said, one day there's Indian will come back, come to take back Aboriginal title. If we don't treat you right, and that's to start renegotiation again. That's his protection. So I don't know. And that kid's yet to be born. Maybe it start now.
Yeah.
I don't know more. That could be I tell them, divide no more.
Yeah.
Stay together. Danoja.
Danoja.
It's okay.
Niche okay.
Ni Adonai.
Ni Adonai.
Ekera.
Ekera.
Ni culture etredite.
Ni culture nitrinde.
Etredite.
Etredinde.
There's no such a thing as retire from your language. When you die, that's when you're retired. I think our language is part of us.